Truistery Vibes warmly welcomes all our beloved listeners. We're so glad to see you again in our familiar time slot.
Today,
Truistery Vibes brings you a brand new story, one that we hope will touch your heart and stay with you. As you listen, feel free to leave a comment sharing the quote or moment that left the deepest impression on you. Wishing you a wonderful and meaningful listening experience. Not all love stories start with butterflies. Some start with compromises. Emily Carter had never been the reckless type. While her friends chased passion and whirlwind romances, she quietly built her life, one measured decision at a time. By 28, she owned a small but charming bridal boutique in her Oregon hometown, loved her morning coffee with 2 sugars, and still believed in loyalty more than sparks. So when her parents introduced her to Ryan Mitchell, an auto repair shop owner 6 years older, responsible, respected, and single, she said yes. Not yes to love, but yes to possibility. They didn't fall in love. They stepped into marriage. It was the kind of wedding people called sweet, modest,
cozy,
a few wildflowers, homemade cupcakes, vows exchanged with awkward glances and polite smiles. Everyone clapped. Everyone hoped. The two of them moved into a small rental tucked in the back of a quiet street. The kind of place that creaked at night and needed a little paint, but it had a roof, a heater, and a small garden patch Emily dreamed of turning into a play space someday when we have kids. The days blurred into weeks. Weeks into months. The honeymoon phase never quite came, but there was routine, and with routine came comfort, at least for Emily. She cooked dinner most nights. Ryan fixed the leaky pipes. They paid bills, watered plants, went grocery shopping every Sunday. It wasn't a fairy tale, but it wasn't a disaster either. It was fine. And fine, she told herself, was enough. But in the quiet moments, when she'd sit on the couch alone, listening to the clock tick, waiting for Ryan to come home late from work again, something heavy would settle in her chest. A feeling she couldn't name. Not sadness exactly. Not anger. Just a hollowness. A question she dared not ask out loud. What if fine isn't forever? Still, she smiled. Still, she told friends she was doing great. Because in a town like theirs, where everybody knew everybody, admitting unhappiness felt like betrayal. And Emily Carter never betrayed anyone. She especially didn't want to betray the image she had spent years building, the kind, patient wife. The woman who always had it together. So she pressed on. She closed her boutique at 7 p.m. sharp, walked home in her cream-colored flats, and waited for Ryan at the dinner table with lukewarm soup and unspoken expectations. But love, real love, has a way of echoing through the silence when it's missing. And Emily was about to discover that the quiet life she had chosen wasn't so quiet after all. At first, it was little things. Ryan stopped eating onions. Emily noticed because she always used to sneak them into his grilled cheese sandwiches. He'd complain, she'd laugh. And then he'd eat it anyway. But now, he pushed the plate aside, muttering something about digestion.
She didn't argue.
Just quietly stopped adding onions. Then came the late nights. He'd call around 8 p.m. I've got a last-minute job. Some rich guy's Mercedes won't start. Emily believed him. Why wouldn't she? He was hardworking, responsible, until it started happening every night. And every night, Emily sat at the dinner table alone, staring at her phone like it owed her an explanation. He changed his cologne, bought new button-down shirts, ones he never wore around the house. She found receipts in his pockets, expensive coffee shops downtown, clothing stores she'd never even been inside. And one time, a lipstick stain on the inside collar of a shirt she didn't recognize. She stared at it for a long time, then washed it, silently, because she didn't want to believe what her gut was screaming. Instead, she rationalized. Maybe he's trying to look more professional for customers. Maybe he's networking. Maybe he's changing. And maybe change isn't always bad. But Emily was changing too. She started watching the clock more. Started checking his location when he forgot to text. Started remembering how his touch used to feel warmer, more present. Now, even when he was home, He wasn't with her. He scrolled through his phone with a smile she hadn't seen in months. And when she asked what he was laughing at, he'd say, "Just a dumb meme on Facebook." But he never showed her.
He used to.
Before. One night, Emily couldn't sleep. She walked downstairs for a glass of water and found Ryan asleep on the couch, phone still glowing in his hand.
It buzzed.
A notification. She didn't mean to look, but her eyes betrayed her. The name, Claire H. The message, "You still up?" A red heart emoji. Emily stood frozen in the dark. For one long minute, she didn't breathe.
Didn't blink.
Just stared. She didn't open the message. Didn't throw the phone. Didn't scream. She just went upstairs, crawled into bed, and stared at the ceiling for the rest of the night. By morning, she had decided. She wasn't going to accuse. Not yet. She needed proof. Because when someone's lying to your face with a straight smile, you don't confront. You prepare. And so Emily Carter, the quiet girl from the quiet town, began a quiet war. Not with anger, not with tears, but with strategy. Because sometimes, the strongest women are the ones who don't react. They observe. There's a moment, right before the truth unravels, when your body already knows. Even if your heart isn't ready to accept it, Emily Carter was living in that moment. She went through the motions like any devoted wife would. She cooked dinner, folded laundry, smiled at neighbors, and texted Ryan at 5 p.m. like clockwork. "How's your day?" Most of the time, the reply was simple, busy.
No puntuación. No emotion.
But what Ryan didn't know was that Emily had started her own kind of busy. She wasn't just folding laundry. She was checking pockets, scanning receipts. She wasn't just smiling at neighbors. She was learning who had seen Ryan where. She wasn't just texting. She was tracking. One quiet Thursday morning, she made a decision. She didn't tell anyone, not even her best friend. She called a private investigator. A professional. Discreet. Experienced in marital concerns. His name was Luke. Emily met him in the back corner of a coffee shop on the edge of town. She wore a gray hoodie and sunglasses, like she was in some low-budget Netflix thriller. But this wasn't a show. This was her life. She slid a photo of Ryan across the table. "He's cheating," she said flatly. "I just need to know with who and for how long." Luke looked her in the eye. "Are you ready for that answer?" She didn't blink. "I wouldn't be here if I wasn't." It only took 4 days.
4.
On day 1, Ryan said he had to work late. On day 2, he didn't come home until 2 a.m. On day 3, he showered twice, once in the morning, once before work. And on day 4, Luke sent Emily a file. Photos, timestamps, locations, a restaurant downtown, a motel, and her, Claire Hudson, an elementary school teacher. Sweet smile, conservative dresses, and a hand that gripped Ryan's arm like it belonged there. There it was, the truth, pressed in ink, pinned in pixels, unforgiving, undeniable. Emily stared at the photos in her car for 30 minutes.
No tears. No screams.
Just stillness. Like her body had finally stopped pretending. Like grief had burned all its fuel and turned to ice. That night, she didn't confront him. She didn't flip tables or break dishes or throw the evidence in his face. Instead, she placed one of the photos, just one, on his pillow. The one where Claire kissed his cheek while Ryan laughed like he hadn't laughed at home in months. Then she climbed into bed beside him. She didn't say a word when he walked into the room and froze at the sight of the photo. She didn't flinch when he picked it up, heart pounding, eyes darting. She just turned off the lamp and whispered, "Sleep well." This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Emily wasn't just after the truth anymore. She was after justice. And justice, in her hands, was going to be quiet, elegant, and devastating. Sometimes, even when you prepare for war, you don't expect to be ambushed by the ones closest to you. Emily Carter had always pictured how the confrontation would go. She imagined Ryan stammering, scrambling to explain. She imagined herself calm and composed, holding the truth like a weapon he never saw coming. But she never imagined being the one on trial. It started with Jason. He was a customer, charming, maybe too charming. Showed up at her boutique almost daily, claiming to buy gifts for his sister, his mother, his ex, depending on the day. Emily had always kept her distance. But after everything with Ryan, she started to let her guard down, just a little. A smile here, a short chat there. Jason offered to help her unload a heavy box one afternoon. I don't mind, he insisted. You shouldn't be lifting things like this alone. Emily hesitated, but eventually nodded.
Fine.
Just the one box. Inside the boutique, he handed her the package, then lingered. A little too close. She stepped back, politely. Thanks. I've got it from here. Before she could say anything else, the door burst open, and there was Ryan, face red, breathing hard, staring at the scene like he'd just walked in on the climax of his own twisted drama. What the hell is going on? He barked. Emily blinked, confused. What are you? You think I wouldn't find out? He growled, eyes darting from her to Jason. I come home to a picture of me and another woman. And this is how you want to play it. Jason put his hands up, backing away. Hey man, I didn't know she was… Shut up. Ryan snapped. Emily froze. She didn't recognize the man in front of her. Not fully. Not anymore. Ryan, this isn't what it looks like. Really? Because it looks like my wife's been playing the victim while she's busy entertaining other guys behind my back. The words sliced through her. The man who had betrayed her was accusing her. The irony would have been laughable if it didn't hurt so much. Ryan stormed out. Jason followed, muttering something about miscommunication. And Emily was left standing alone in her shop, heart pounding, hands shaking, tears refusing to fall. She knew what had happened. It was a setup. Jason wasn't just a flirt, he was a pawn. A distraction. A trap. Someone, Claire, must have orchestrated it. Ryan didn't want forgiveness. He wanted to feel less guilty. And what better way than to make her look like the villain? Later that night, he came home, still seething. I want a divorce, he said coldly. Effective immediately. Emily stood in the kitchen, her back to him. She didn't turn around. She didn't plead.
Didn't beg.
Didn't ask for anything. All she said was, good. And then she walked upstairs like her world hadn't just been flipped upside down. Because in her mind it already had. Long before this moment, she had loved him once.
But now?
She only loved her freedom. Emily Carter didn't fall apart. She sharpened. While Ryan packed his things, muttering about being done and starting fresh, Emily was already 10 steps ahead. She didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't even flinch when he slammed the door behind him. She simply whispered to herself, game on. Because while Ryan thought he was running toward freedom, he had no idea Emily was about to light a match and expose every inch of his mess to the world. Step 1. Go quiet. She didn't post vague quotes on Facebook, didn't call friends for pity, didn't show up at his garage with drama. Instead, she built a folder. A beautiful, damning folder. Screenshots, receipts, photos, bank transfers, messages from Claire. A full narrative of deceit, manipulation, and lies laid out with surgical precision. And when she was done, she pressed send. To Claire's school board, to Ryan's parents, and, anonymously, to a local gossip group on Facebook with over 10,000 members. The fallout came fast. Claire Hudson, the picture-perfect teacher with a Pinterest classroom and flawless Instagram captions, was suspended indefinitely pending review of ethical violations. Parents were outraged. Co-workers went silent. Ryan's mother called Emily, crying. I'm so sorry, sweetheart, she whispered. If I had known, if I had seen. Emily's voice was calm. You didn't want to see. But now, you can't look away. Then came the family meeting. Ryan's parents called him home. A full house. Cousins.
Aunts.
Uncle Henry.
Grandma.
Emily was there too, invited. She sat in the living room with the same grace she wore on her wedding day. This time, no white dress. Just a soft navy blouse, steady hands, and eyes like steel. Ryan arrived late. swaggering in like the victim. But when his father stood up and said, "We don't have a son anymore," the room went silent. Ryan's jaw dropped. "What the hell are you talking about?" "You humiliated this family," his father said. "You humiliated her. And if you think we'll stand behind you while you throw away your marriage for someone like that, then you're not the man I raised." Ryan looked to his mother. She nodded. "You are no longer welcome in this home," she said softly. "We'll always care for you, but we don't want to know you." Emily didn't say a word. She didn't need to. She stood up, looked Ryan in the eye, and walked past him, shoulders square, chin high. Outside, she finally exhaled. Not in relief. In rebirth. She wasn't just done with Ryan. She was done with silence. With playing small. With folding herself to make others comfortable. He had burned her down. But she was rising. And this time, she had wings. It's funny how silence can feel deafening when it's forced on you, and like freedom when you finally choose it. Emily Carter chose silence. No more checking her phone. No more waiting at the window. No more tiptoeing around someone else's moods. Her home, once cluttered with tension and half-kept promises, became a space of clarity. She rearranged furniture, painted the living room a soft olive green, tossed the sheets he once loved and replaced them with crisp linen and lavender spray. For the first time in a long time, she was building something just for her. The boutique became her sanctuary, no longer just a job. It was her mission, her safe place, her battlefield, and her victory parade. She worked longer hours, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. She redesigned the storefront, switched out dull displays for something bolder, warmer, more her. Every bride who walked in didn't just get a dress, they got a woman who understood heartbreak and survival. Word spread. Orders increased. So did her confidence. Emily launched a small online shop, slow at first, then steady, then booming. She taught herself how to run Facebook ads, edit product photos, and track analytics like a pro. People started calling her CEO vibes. She just smiled and kept working. Her friends asked if she was lonely. Her mother worried she was isolating. Her ex-husband? Radio silent. And Emily? She was more herself than she'd ever been. Yes, there were moments. Nights when the house felt too quiet. Mornings where she still reached for 2 mugs instead of 1. But those moments didn't crush her. They reminded her. She had loved deeply. She had lost painfully. And yet here she was, still standing, still moving, still becoming. One evening, as she locked up the boutique, she paused to look at her reflection in the glass. There was a new light in her eyes. Not joy, exactly. Not peace, quite yet. But strength. And strength looks beautiful on a woman who is never meant to be quiet forever. Some love stories begin with fireworks. Others begin with a fender bender. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Emily had just closed the boutique early after a shipment delay. She treated herself to a smoothie, opened the sunroof, and played an old playlist she hadn't listened to since college, back when life was simpler and her heart wasn't so complicated. Just a minor collision, enough to jolt her smoothie out of the cup holder and right onto her lap.
She groaned.
"I'm so sorry," a voice called out. She looked up. There he was.
Tall.
Clean cut. Maybe mid-30s. Holding his wallet and his hands in the air like he was surrendering to fate itself. He rushed over. "I was in a rush to pick up flowers for my aunt's retirement party. Totally my fault. Are you okay?" Emily blinked. "Just purple smoothie trauma."
Nothing permanent.
He laughed, a real, unfiltered kind of laugh. "Let me at least pay for the dry cleaning. And a new smoothie." She was about to say no, reflexively, like she always did. But something about his energy disarmed her. It was calm, gentle, a little chaotic, but in a charming way. "Fine," she said, standing up and wiping her jeans. "But only if the second smoothie comes with less embarrassment." His name was Ethan Blake, director of sales at a mid-sized tech firm.
Divorced.
One niece he adored. A sarcastic sense of humor and a strangely impressive knowledge of wedding dress fabrics, thanks to a sister who once studied fashion design. Their apology smoothie turned into a long conversation at a nearby park bench. Then a walk. Then a laugh over the exact same brand of childhood cereal they both used to love. He didn't flirt. He didn't force anything. He just listened. Really listened. And when he asked what she did for a living, Emily braced herself for the usual awkward silence after. I own a bridal boutique. But Ethan didn't blink. That's awesome, he said. Helping people on the happiest day of their life. Sounds like a kind of magic. Magic. She hadn't heard that word in a long time without rolling her eyes. But in that moment, it didn't feel cheesy. It felt right. They didn't make plans to see each other again. No numbers exchanged. Just a mutual, maybe someday. Emily walked back to her car feeling something she hadn't felt in years. Not love. Not attraction. Just lightness. And that, she realized, was more rare than any bouquet of roses or diamond ring. Sometimes, the best kind of spark is the one that doesn't set you on fire. It just reminds you that your heart still works. Emily Carter didn't believe in fate. Not anymore. Not after watching it unravel. But when Ethan Blake texted her 2 weeks after their smoothie-splattered collision, ran into a mannequin in a bridal shop window, and thought of you. Hope your jeans recovered. She smiled. Not the kind of smile that covers pain. Not the kind of smile you practice in the mirror. A real one. They started slow. Coffee on a Sunday. Text conversations that stretched past midnight. Random. Thoughtful check-ins. Ethan wasn't in a rush. He didn't pressure, didn't pry. He showed up when he said he would. He listened more than he talked. And when he laughed, really laughed, his eyes crinkled in that boyish, unaffected way that made Emily forget to guard her heart. He didn't ask about Ryan. She didn't offer. But one evening, over takeout on her boutique's office couch, she told him anyway. Everything. The betrayal. The gaslighting. The fallout. Even the part where she sat alone in bed with photo evidence on her pillow and silence in her chest. Ethan didn't interrupt. Didn't wince. Didn't say, wow, what a jerk. He just nodded. That must have hurt like hell. And then he added softly, but it's kind of amazing that you're still standing the way you are. Emily looked at him differently after that. Not as a stranger. Not even as a man. But as a place. A safe place. Over the months, their connection deepened. Dinners turned into weekend trips. His toothbrush ended up next to hers. They started arguing, the healthy kind, the kind about what toppings go on pizza, and whether it's acceptable to leave the cabinet doors open. Ethan did. She didn't. One night, in the middle of folding laundry, he looked at her and said, you know you never have to be small around me. And she didn't even realize she'd been holding her breath until then. A year passed. 1 year of healing, of learning how to trust again, not just him, but herself. 1 year of watching Ethan show up for her, even on the days she didn't feel easy to love. On a quiet Saturday morning, as rain tapped gently against the windows, he reached across the breakfast table and slid a small velvet box toward her. No speech, he said. No pressure. No expectations. She opened it. Inside, a simple ring. Gold. Elegant.
No diamonds.
Just her style. I'm not asking you to forget your past, Ethan said. I'm asking if I can be part of your future. Emily didn't cry. She didn't need to. Because somewhere deep inside, something long dormant stirred awake and whispered, you're safe now. She took his hand, and with the softest voice she'd ever used to say something so life-changing, she replied,
Yes.
Yes, you can. They say karma is slow, but always on time. For Ryan Mitchell, it arrived like a thunderstorm after a long drought, messy, relentless, and impossible to ignore. Ever since Emily exposed his affair and walked out of his life, Ryan's perfect little fantasy world began crumbling. He thought Claire would be an upgrade. She was younger, flirty, exciting. But exciting quickly morphed into expensive, entitled, and impossible to please. She wanted designer bags, weekend trips, spontaneous gifts, and when he hesitated, she threatened to leave. So he paid, and paid, and paid. Until one day, Ryan woke up and realized his credit cards were maxed, his garage was running in the red, and the woman he left his marriage for was texting other men behind his back. But the final blow didn't come from betrayal. It came from diagnosis. A routine checkup turned into an awkward conversation. Then tests. Then the words no one wants to hear. You've tested positive for genital warts. He sat there, stunned, the room buzzing like a bad dream. The doctor's voice was steady. But Ryan wasn't listening anymore. All he could hear was the sound of his own world collapsing. That night, Ryan did the one thing he swore he'd never do. He showed up at Emily's door, soaked from the rain,
Broken. Pale.
reeking of regret. She didn't answer right away, but eventually she opened the door a crack. "Why are you here?" she asked flatly. He looked at her, eyes hollow. "I made a mistake, Emily. The biggest one of my life." Silence. "I left the only person who ever truly cared about me. I thought I was chasing happiness, but I ran straight into hell." She didn't flinch, didn't soften. "You didn't just leave," she said. "You torched everything on the way out." Ryan stepped closer.
Please.
"Just one more chance. I can be better. Let me prove it." Emily looked at him, truly looked at him, and realized something surprising. She felt nothing. No rage. No sadness. No longing. Just stillness. She shut the door slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I hope you find peace, Ryan. But you won't find it here." That night, Emily didn't cry. She didn't scream. She didn't crumble. She sat at her kitchen table, sipped her tea, and exhaled years of heartbreak like smoke from a candle. She was done. And that was the ending Ryan would never get to rewrite. There are endings that feel like loss. And then there are endings that feel like liberation. Emily Carter no longer counted the days since her divorce. She no longer woke up wondering where Ryan was, or who he was with, because in every way that mattered, he didn't exist anymore. Her world, once built around quiet tolerance and self-sacrifice, was now vibrant, loud, alive. Her boutique had expanded. Her online shop was thriving. She had hired 2 full-time staff, launched a blog, and recently got featured in a wedding magazine under the headline, "Reclaiming Joy After Heartbreak. Meet the woman who turned pain into purpose." But the real headline? She was finally at peace. Ethan had become her quiet anchor, never controlling, never overbearing, just there, steady, present. The kind of love that didn't rush in. It rose, like the sun, soft, warm, inevitable. They didn't talk about marriage every day. There were no ultimatums, no pressure. But one morning, while drinking coffee on the porch and watching clouds drift lazily across the sky, Ethan reached over and kissed her hand. "I don't want to be your next chapter,"
He said.
"I want to be the whole damn sequel." And for once, Emily didn't hesitate. She smiled, leaned into his shoulder, and whispered, "Then let's write it together." Later that week, she visited her parents' house with Ethan. Her mother, who had once been quietly heartbroken over the collapse of her daughter's marriage, wrapped her arms around them both and said, "I've never seen you glow like this." And it was true. There was something different now. Not perfection, not fantasy, but wholeness. Weeks turned to months. Seasons changed. The pain faded, not forgotten, but no longer in control. Ryan's name only appeared once more, in a social media post from someone in town. He had closed his garage, moved away. Rumor had it, Claire had left him. Again. Emily didn't feel triumph. She felt distance. She had outgrown the version of herself who needed closure. Because here's what she learned. You don't heal by proving them wrong. You heal by becoming someone they'll never deserve again. On her wedding day, yes, wedding day, Emily wore a simple ivory gown from her own boutique. No frills. No veil. Just elegance. Just her. And as she walked toward Ethan, barefoot in the grass, laughter echoing from friends and family all around, she thought of the woman she used to be. The woman who settled. The woman who doubted her worth. The woman who once mistook survival for love. And she silently thanked her, because without her, there would be no this. Under the canopy of golden autumn trees, with the man who saw her, not as broken, but brilliant, Emily Carter spoke the vows she never thought she'd say again. I choose you, not because I need saving, but because I've saved myself, and I want to walk forward with someone who knows how to hold light. And that's how the girl, who was once shattered, became the woman who bloomed from the ashes. Not despite the fire, but because of it. And that brings us to the end of today's story on Truistery Vibes. Don't forget to leave a comment with a quote or moment that touched you the most. Your words give our team the motivation to keep creating more heartfelt stories. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you again soon.